Teokoro was having one of those days in Lagos where every little worry felt like the end of the world. Rent was due, his phone had no credit, and his stomach kept growling, reminding him he hadn't eaten properly. As he walked through the busy streets, dodging cars and vendors, something caught his eye. A young girl, not much older than 17, was huddled against a wall, shivering under a thin, torn shawl. Her eyes were wide, wary, and tired in a way that made Tay's chest tighten. He stopped for a moment, unsure what to do. Normally he didn't have much to spare, but something about her, maybe the way she seemed completely invisible to everyone else, pushed him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the last $200 he had, money that could have paid a week's worth of his rent or groceries. "Here," he said softly, holding it out to her. "Take this, it might help." The girl froze, staring at him as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I can't," she whispered, voice trembling. But Tay shook his head gently. "It's okay. No one's judging. Just eat something, stay warm." After a long pause, she finally took the money, her hands shaking as she clutched it to her chest. A faint, grateful smile appeared on her face, and for a moment, the noise of Lagos faded. Tay didn't expect a thank you or a favor in return. He just felt a spark of something bigger than himself. That simple act, he didn't know yet, was about to change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Tay was still thinking about the girl from yesterday. Her face, pale and shivering, kept popping into his mind. He wondered if she had eaten, if she had a place to sleep, or if the money he gave her even made a difference. He was so lost in thought that he barely noticed the soft knock on his apartment door. When he opened it, he almost didn't recognize her. It was the same girl, Saad, but today she looked different. Her hair, messy yesterday, was slightly tidied. Her eyes still had that cautious wariness, but there was a spark of determination now that caught him off guard. I need to ask you something," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves he could sense underneath. "I want to use the money you gave me to start something. A small business, making and selling jewelry, handcrafted stuff. I know it sounds crazy." Tay raised an eyebrow, unsure whether to laugh or shake his head. "Jewelry?" he asked. "You don't even have a shop, how do you plan to do that?" Saad took a deep breath and smiled, the kind of smile that made it impossible not to believe her. "I know I don't have much, but I have skills. I just need the materials. Please just let me try. I won't let you regret this." Tay hesitated. He had barely enough to pay his own rent this month, and here she was, asking him to invest in some wild idea. But there was something in her eyes, something raw, confident, unshakable, that told him she wasn't just dreaming. She believed in herself, even if the world hadn't given her a reason to. After a long pause, he sighed and nodded. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help, but if this fails, don't blame me." Sada's face lit up instantly, and she gave him a quick, almost shy bow. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "You won't regret it. I promise." Tay felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never met someone so young and fearless, so ready to fight for her own future. And somehow he knew, though he couldn't say why, that this little decision would be the start of something big. He just didn't know yet how much it would change both their lives. As Saad left to gather materials, Tay watched her go, feeling a mix of hope, curiosity, and a tiny spark of pride. He wondered if maybe helping her wasn't just about the money. Maybe it was about giving someone a chance, and, in some quiet, unexpected way, giving himself one too. The week that followed was nothing short of amazing. Tay could hardly believe his eyes as Saad transformed his small, cluttered apartment into a buzzing little workshop. Every morning, she was up before the sun, carefully sorting beads, wires, and tiny tools. By night, her fingers moved like magic, twisting and shaping them into delicate bracelets, necklaces, and rings. Tay didn't know much about jewelry, but he knew talent when he saw it. He would often sit quietly in the corner, pretending to scroll through his phone, but really watching her work. There was a rhythm to her movements, a precision that told him she had done this before, even if life had forced her to hide it. And there was something else, an energy, a fire in her eyes that refused to be tamed. By the third day, a few neighbors had started to peek in curiously. "Wow, is she selling these?" one asked, eyes wide as he picked up a small, shimmering bracelet. Another shook his head, impressed. Where did she learn to do this? Tay felt a mix of pride and surprise. He had thought he was helping a girl in need, but it was becoming clear that Saad wasn't just lucky. She was clever, determined, and talented beyond what most people ever got to see. The tiny apartment that had felt so cramped and dull was now alive with creativity, color and hope. Saad didn't let attention distract her. She worked late into the night, humming softly to herself, carefully arranging her pieces so each one looked perfect. Tay started helping in small ways, handing her tools, watching over her materials, but mostly he stayed out of the way, letting her shine. One evening, after she finished a particularly intricate necklace, she looked up at him, cheeks flushed with effort and excitement. "See," she said, holding it out. "I told you I wouldn't let you regret helping me." Tay smiled, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time, a mix of hope, admiration, and wonder. He realized that the $200 he had given her wasn't just money. It was a chance, a spark that had unlocked a talent the world hadn't seen yet. And as he watched the first few neighbors take pieces home, praising her skill and charm, he knew that this was only the beginning. Saad wasn't just surviving anymore. She was transforming everything around her, and somehow she was transforming him too. As the days passed, Tay and Saada's connection grew stronger. What had started as a brief encounter on a rainy street slowly turned into shared meals, laughter, and long conversations that stretched into the night. Tay found himself looking forward to her visits, and Saad, despite her struggles, began to let her guard down around him. They would sit together on the small balcony of his apartment, eating leftover street food and joking about the chaos of Lagos. Saad laughed freely now, a sound so bright it made Tay's chest feel lighter. He told her about his own struggles, late rents, unpaid bills, the endless pressure of trying to survive in a city that never slept. She listened, nodding, sometimes offering little pieces of wisdom that made him smile. One evening, after they had finished arranging her latest jewelry pieces, Saad grew quiet. Tay noticed and asked gently, "Hey, what's on your mind?" She hesitated, staring at the small stack of beads in front of her. Then, softly, she began to speak. "I lost my family when I was very young. Nobody wanted to take me in, and I had to figure out how to survive on the streets. Some days, I didn't even know where my next meal would come from." Her voice cracked slightly, but she held her chin high, as if refusing to let pity define her. Tay's heart ached. He had known life could be hard, but hearing her story made everything he'd felt about helping her grow deeper. I can't imagine," he said quietly. "But you're amazing, Saad. You've survived, and you're still fighting." She gave a small smile, her eyes glistening. "That $200 you gave me, it wasn't just money, it was hope. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped for me." Tay shook his head, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I honestly didn't think it would mean this much," he admitted. "I just wanted to help, but seeing what you're doing, it's more than I could have imagined." From that moment, he didn't just see Saad as a stranger in need. She became like a little sister, someone whose struggles and victories mattered to him in a way that surprised him. He realized the $200 wasn't just changing her life, it was changing him too. He felt lighter, more hopeful, and a little more connected to the world around him. Together, they laughed at their little failures, celebrated small successes, and found comfort in each other's company. Tay couldn't help but wonder how far this bond would go, but one thing was clear. That simple act of kindness had sparked something far bigger than either of them had expected, and it was only the beginning of a journey that would change both their lives forever. A few days later, Saad decided to take her jewelry to the local market. She carefully packed her small collection into a neat basket, her heart racing with excitement and nerves. Tay walked beside her, silently cheering her on. He had watched her grow from a girl shivering on the street into someone full of drive, and now she was stepping out to show the world what she could do. As soon as they arrived, a man at a nearby stall noticed her. He was an older vendor, selling mass-produced jewelry with flashy displays. When he saw Saad unpack her simple handmade pieces, he laughed loudly, loud enough for everyone around to hear. "Look at this," he sneered. A street girl thinks she can sell jewelry. She won't last a week. Saad froze for a moment, feeling the weight of his words. The market grew quiet as other vendors glanced her way. But then, slowly, she straightened her back, took a deep breath and smiled calmly. "We'll see," she said softly, almost to herself, before turning to arrange her display. Tay watched silently, his chest swelling with pride. He had seen a lot in Lagos, but the way Saad faced ridicule without flinching, it was something else. She didn't argue, she didn't fight back, she just focused on her work, letting her talent speak louder than the insults. He realized then that she wasn't just brave, she was wise. She knew that wasting energy on anger would only slow her down. While others were busy mocking, she was quietly building something real. Tay couldn't help but smile. Later, when the crowd began to notice her jewelry, Tay started helping in small ways. He gave her tips on setting up her stall more attractively and suggested ways to show off her pieces so customers could see the quality. He even quietly helped her post pictures online to attract more buyers. He didn't want to overshadow her, but he wanted to make sure her hard work reached as many people as possible. By the end of the day, several customers had bought her pieces, praising the unique designs and the care that went into each one. The competitor who had mocked her watched, frowning as more and more people gravitated toward Sada's stall. Tay felt a warm sense of satisfaction. He realized that this small act of support, sometimes a tip, sometimes just standing by her quietly, was helping her grow even faster. Saad had the talent and determination, but now she had someone who believed in her too. And together, they were starting to turn a small spark into something bigger, something that no amount of mockery could extinguish. For the first time, Tay saw clearly that this wasn't just about $200, or even jewelry. It was about courage, resilience, and the power of believing in someone when no one else would. It was a bright Saturday morning when Sada's stall drew the attention of someone unexpected. A boutique owner, sharply dressed and carrying an air of elegance, walked through the market, scanning the various stalls with a practiced eye. When she stopped in front of Sada's display, Tay felt his stomach tighten. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew this moment could change everything. The woman picked up a necklace, turning it over carefully in her hands. "These are exquisite," she said finally, her voice calm but impressed. "Who made them?" Saad, standing a little taller than usual, met her gaze. "I did," she said simply, her voice steady despite the fluttering nerves inside her. The boutique owner smiled, a small, approving curve of her lips. "I want to buy these pieces. All of them." Tay blinked. All of them. He could hardly believe it. His heart raced as Saad began to carefully wrap her pieces, her hands steady and confident. In a matter of minutes, she had made her first big sale. The $200 he had given her, the money he thought was a small gesture, had doubled, and now it felt like the start of something far bigger. When the boutique owner left, satisfied and promising to feature Sada's designs in her store, Saad turned to Tay with a grin that could light up the entire street. "See," she said, eyes sparkling with pride and excitement. "I told you I wouldn't let you regret helping me." Tay felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to laugh, to cheer, to cry, all at once. He had never imagined that a simple act of kindness could lead to something so incredible. Watching her succeed, he realized how talent and determination, when given a chance, could create magic. The market around them buzzed with activity, but Tay's attention was only on Saad. He thought about the past week, the long hours she spent perfecting her pieces, the way she ignored the mocking competitor, the sleepless nights she endured just to make her vision come true. And now, in front of him, all that hard work was paying off. Saad held out a bracelet to him, still wrapped in delicate paper. "This one's for you," she said softly, "for believing in me." Tay shook his head, smiling, and accepted it. It was more than just jewelry, it was a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the power of believing in someone when no one else does. As he watched her pack up the remaining pieces for the boutique, Tay felt a mix of pride, awe, and wonder. He realized that this was only the beginning. Sada's journey was just starting, and somehow, he knew that her determination and talent would take her, and maybe even him, further than either of them had ever dreamed. A week later, Tay woke up to the sounds of chatter and laughter outside his apartment. Rubbing his eyes, he went to the window and froze. Saad had set up a small pop-up shop right on the corner of the street, her colorful jewelry displayed neatly on a table, glinting in the morning sun. A small crowd had gathered, people leaning in to admire the pieces, asking questions, and eagerly picking up bracelets and necklaces. Tay could hardly believe what he was seeing. The girl who had been shivering on the street not long ago was now at the center of attention, running her own little business like a pro. She smiled at every customer, chatted confidently, and handled each sale with grace. Her hands moved fast, but with such precision that it was clear she had perfected her craft. Then he noticed something even more surprising. 2 local influencers, recognizable from social media, were taking photos of her jewelry, clearly excited about featuring her work online. Tay felt a lump in his throat. This wasn't just a small success anymore. Saad was influencing others, spreading her talent and energy through the neighborhood. He stepped outside, trying to make his presence known without interrupting, but he couldn't hide his awe. He watched her laugh with a young mother picking out a necklace for her daughter, guide a teenage girl through choosing a bracelet, and offer tips to another aspiring maker. Every gesture was confident, kind, and thoughtful. Tay realized that she wasn't just surviving, she was inspiring everyone around her. For a moment he just stood there, silent, heart pounding. He remembered the night he had given her that $200, thinking it was just a small act of kindness, barely enough to make a difference. And now, here she was, creating ripples far bigger than he had ever imagined. The money hadn't just helped her, it had unlocked her potential, and she was sharing it with the world. Saad caught his eye across the table and winked. "You look surprised," she said teasingly, but there was gratitude in her voice too. Tay smiled, shaking his head. You've done something incredible," he said softly. She laughed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's only the beginning," she said confidently. "Thanks for giving me the chance." Tay felt a mix of pride, disbelief, and hope wash over him. He realized that the stranger he had helped had transformed not just her own life, but the lives of everyone she touched. And in a way, she had transformed him too, showing him that a small act of kindness could turn into something far greater than he had ever imagined. As he watched the crowd grow, taking photos, laughing, and admiring her work, Tay knew one thing for sure: Saad was unstoppable. That evening, after the pop-up shop had quieted down, Tay and Saad sat on the curb, legs stretched out, listening to the sounds of Lagos settling into the night. The air was warm, the city still alive with distant laughter and traffic, but there was a calm between them, a pause from the day's excitement. Saad looked at her hands, the ones that had worked tirelessly all week, twisting and shaping beads into beautiful jewelry. She took a deep breath and said softly, "Tay, there's something I haven't told you." He turned to her, curious. "What is it?" She hesitated for a moment, then finally spoke. Before all this, I worked in a luxury jewelry factory. I learned techniques there, special ways to design, shape, and finish pieces that no one else in the city knows. I couldn't use them back then. Life had other plans. I had to survive, and the skills just stayed hidden. Tay's eyes widened. He was speechless. The girl he had given $200 to, just a random act of kindness, wasn't just talented by chance. She had been trained, skilled, and all it took was a little support to let those hidden abilities shine. His heart raced as he thought about the weeks they had spent together. The growth, the sales, the excitement. That small amount of money hadn't created talent, it had unlocked it. "Wow!" he finally breathed out, shaking his head in disbelief. "All this time, it was already there inside you." Saad smiled, a mix of pride and vulnerability in her eyes. "Yeah. I just needed a chance, someone to believe in me, even for a little while. That's all." Tay felt a rush of admiration and inspiration. He had thought he was helping her, but in reality she had been teaching him something too. How much impact a single act of faith and kindness could have. She wasn't just surviving. She was rising, using skills hidden by circumstance to create something beautiful, something that could change her life completely. He reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "You've done more than I could have imagined. You're amazing, Saad." She laughed softly, brushing her hair back. "We both did this together," she said. "You gave me the spark. I just made it shine." Tay leaned back, feeling inspired, hopeful, and proud. He realized that sometimes all it took to change a life wasn't millions of dollars or a miracle. It was a little trust, a little help, and someone seeing potential where others only saw struggle. And tonight, he knew that Sada's story was only beginning. A few weeks later, the local community organized a small event to celebrate young entrepreneurs in the neighborhood. There were colorful banners, a small stage, and tables showcasing different handmade goods. Tay hadn't planned to attend, he just wanted to see Sad one more time. But when he arrived, he realized how much attention she had already drawn. Sad was on stage, standing tall and confident, a microphone in her hand. Her jewelry sparkled under the afternoon sun, and the crowd of neighbors, small business owners, and curious onlookers watched her eagerly. Tay stood off to the side, heart beating fast, unsure what to expect. When Sad started speaking, her voice was calm but full of warmth. "I want to share something very important with all of you," she said, looking directly at him. "A few weeks ago, I was struggling to survive on the streets. I didn't have food, shelter, or hope. And then someone gave me a chance. Someone believed in me when no one else would." She paused, letting the words sink in, and then pointed toward Tay. "Tay Okoro gave me $200. Not just money but trust. That trust changed my life. It allowed me to show my skills, to work hard, and to begin creating a future I never thought possible. This $200 wasn't just money. It was a spark, and that spark has grown into something bigger than I could ever imagine." The crowd erupted in applause. Some people whistled, others cheered, and Tay felt his face turn red. He hadn't expected this kind of public recognition. He had thought he was just helping, doing a small thing, but now he saw the ripple effect of that simple act. Sad smiled at him, her eyes shining. "Tay, thank you for seeing me, for trusting me. You didn't just give me money, you gave me a reason to believe in myself." Tay shook his head, speechless. He looked around at the crowd, at the excitement and admiration for Sad, and realized how far one small act could reach. The $200 had started a chain reaction, giving hope, inspiring effort, and now even influencing the people around her. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: pride, awe, and a quiet, deep happiness. He had thought he was just helping a stranger, but she had reminded him that kindness, no matter how small, can change lives in ways you never expect. As the crowd continued to cheer, Tay finally found his voice. "Sad, you did this. I just gave you a chance. You made it real." She laughed softly, leaning closer. "We both did it," she said. "And now, this is just the beginning." Tay watched her beam on the stage, feeling the warmth of the moment. In that instant, he understood something simple but powerful. Even the smallest act of generosity, when given with trust, could grow into something extraordinary. Months later, Lagos had changed a little for both of them. Sada's small jewelry venture had grown into a thriving business. Her little pop-up table had become a proper workshop, with colorful displays, a small sign, and now even a few employees. Girls who, just like her not long ago, had been struggling to survive on the streets. Tay stood quietly at the edge of the workshop, watching Sad move gracefully among the girls. She gave instructions, offered advice, and laughed with them as they learned the tricks and skills she had mastered. Every once in a while, she would glance at him and wink, and his chest would swell with pride. "Look at all this," he whispered, almost to himself. "I can't believe how far you've come." Sad walked over, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, and smiled warmly. "Remember the $200? She asked softly, teasing but full of gratitude. Tay laughed, shaking his head. "I do. Who would have thought that one small thing could turn into all this?" She shrugged, eyes sparkling. "It wasn't just the money. It was the chance and the trust. That's what really matters." He nodded, realizing how much this journey had changed him too. Helping her had started as a simple act of kindness, but it had grown into something bigger, something that created hope, gave life to dreams, and transformed not just Sad, but everyone she touched. Around them, the girls worked enthusiastically, their smiles bright and their energy contagious. Tay watched as a few customers came in, drawn by the buzz of creativity and passion. The workshop was alive, full of laughter, purpose, and empowerment. For a moment, Tay closed his eyes, taking it all in. A single act of generosity, a little $200, had become a spark that lit up so many lives. And standing there beside Sod, he knew that this was only the beginning of something beautiful. A story of hope, transformation, and the power of believing in someone when no one else does.